few days ago, I was working on a ticket and I noticed something really weird. A bug I'd fixed months ago was back. If you've ever worked with code, then you know how frustrating this is. You spend days, sometimes weeks on a single bug before you figure out what the problem is. A side note is that this can get really deep sometimes. Sometimes you find out that the bug isn't even in your own code, but it happens to be in a library because you have a very specific use case. And in that scenario, the only fix is either putting the fix in yourself in someone else's code base or using an entirely new tool. So when you finally figure it out, right, these huge bugs, it is an enormous sense of accomplishment. Finally, it's done. It's exhausting, but you're finished. So when it comes back, it is a new level of horror. To give you an overview for this bug, essentially data wasn't persisting past login, logout for users, which is really strange. It shouldn't happen like that. My first thought is that it's Apple auth accounts only. They are occasionally an edge case I unfortunately forget about. My first clue to this bug is also that we have these weird spectral API endpoints that aren't doing anything, which is also really weird. Then I noticed something else, and this is where it started to get complicated. I vaguely remember refactoring some endpoints for a streak feature a while ago, so I'm thinking maybe I was just messy about this and I didn't clean this up. It's out of character, but things happen. But then, and this is where Xcode decides to be Xcode, there's a simultaneous Xcode bug going on in which essentially you can't copy paste from your device to a simulated device, which is really, really annoying when you have generated passwords. They don't copy over well. So I couldn't log into regular accounts, which is why I was working on the Apple auth accounts in the first place. This is exactly what leads me to believe that this is an Apple auth bug only. Everything was working fine prior to this. And the logic actually does hold up as I dig into this. I'm using email as a primary identifier. Apple auth accounts only provide email on sign up and not after that. So it makes sense that we would be trying to use email as an identifier, but we don't have an email and therefore we can't get the data for this user. Perfect, logical. I have a theory. I even have an idea for an easy fix. I was feeling really smart about this for an hour. And then I implement this fix and I decide, you know what, you should check edge cases again because this is how we got here. So I create a new account without a generated password that I could just easily type in. And this is where things get worse because the bug is still there. Did my email fix cause some major issue and now nothing's working across accounts? Is this some major breaking change somehow? Things were getting weird, because when I stashed that change on Git and then reloaded everything, it was still broken. So I open up things in the backend again and I realized that huge chunks of files are missing, like just not there. It's the exact opposite of the problem I have in Swift. Endpoints that I know should be there aren't. Code I know I wrote has just vanished. Like what the actual is going on? This is exactly the moment where the bug goes from a problem I can fix to did someone break into my code base? I am no longer debugging. I am actively investigating. If you've ever had that moment where a problem goes from something you can handle to, oh, this is huge, you know the exact type of stomach drop I was feeling. So I did what any reasonable engineer would do, and I became a detective. And what I found was I honestly don't even know if it's better or worse than a break-in. I turn to the only tools I have at this point and start digging through my Git history. At what point did things go missing? Why was this merged? I know that the local and remote are fully synced, so it's not as if I haven't pulled down any new changes. If you've ever gone through months of Git history, then you know this is actually quite a tedious task. And finally, I find it, the missing code. It was on a branch from 2 months ago. I never merged. So I pulled it, rebased main on the updates, conflicts galore, and what do you know? It works perfectly. This fix was already written by me months ago. I solved this problem, committed the code, and then just left it. The fix has been sitting there, perfectly good, entirely undeployed. So while I spent days panicking about the old bug being back, the fix was already there. The old bug was literally solved. I just forgot to ship it somehow. I cross-referenced on GitLab and it turns out that I had pushed the branch but never actually set up an MR to merge. At this point, I was just so relieved. I started laughing and then I stopped because I realized that this is not just a code thing. With dawning horrible clarity that I do this all of the time. Like all of the time. My real life, I figure things out, I have the fix, I write it down, and then I just forget about it. You could say I metaphorically don't merge it in. This is like every realization I've ever had from any self-help book ever. Apply for a week, feel better, and then forget about it. Like that journal entry I had where I figured out something about some deep-seated trauma and then just, or like the advice that I give other people, but never myself. Realizations, dreams, and ideas that I have at 2 a.m., but then just don't remember? You're probably thinking of one right now, like something you realized in therapy or you thought of in the shower or at 2 a.m. The thing you know is true and you're still not doing anything about it. That thing, That's your unmerged fix. So I wanted to understand, why do we do this? Why do we solve problems and then just not apply the solution? You might have guessed it already, but there's actually a name for this. This has been coined the knowing doing gap. Oh, I know, it's another gap. Knowing what to do and actually doing it are two completely separate parts of the brain. So understanding lives in the prefrontal cortex, but actually making a behavior change requires rewiring in the basal ganglia, which is obviously a very different system. This is in large part why self-help books feel so good to read and so hard to implement. Reading gives us the dopamine hit of understanding, and our brain reads the moment as this little checkmark aha thing, and then that problem is just resolved. But we all know that nothing actually changed. Code is on the branch, right? Like it was never deployed. Where I went wrong here is I pushed the branch up, got distracted by something, and then apparently moved the ticket in Jira from in progress to done. So the dopamine hit, and I was like, oh, never to see you again. And then my brain marks that as resolved. This is why so often these like self-help book and podcasts feel like progress, but aren't. Your brain is just literally marking the problem as solved as soon as you understand the concept, but not after you've implemented it. Understanding isn't solving. Merging the fix is solving. I do this constantly. One of these things, for instance, is that I know I feel better about myself and the world when I just assume that everything is working out for me all of the time, that no matter what, everyone is just doing their best, and leading with this gentleness and positivity is a really great way to help me feel better. And you know how long I do this? A week at a time before I turn right back into a little pessimistic doom and gloom rat. And the crazy thing is, this is my problem. This is the exact problem I'm trying to solve. I don't need more self-help tips and tricks, and you don't need that either. There are plenty of insights out there. I need something that helps me close the gap between knowing and doing. But you do too. I fixed the bug, merged the branch finally. Gap works perfectly again. Apple Auth accounts or no Apple Auth accounts. That part was easy. It took only like 10 minutes once I knew where the fix was. The harder question is, what are the fixes in my actual life that I'm carrying around on these metaphorical old branches? Knowing they're there, or literally forgetting, and just never deploying them. I kind of have a list, and it is a lot longer than I would like to admit. But I guess the first step is admitting that you have a backlog and then working one by one until you finish it. What is your unmerged fix that you know is true and you're still not doing anything about it? I'm not going to tell you to do it. I'm literally just asking you to name it, because I do unfortunately think that naming it is the first step to merging it. I think a lot of us have bigger backlogs than we'd like to admit, and that's okay. Knowing what to do and actually applying it are two completely parts of the brain. Completely parts. Behavior change requires, but so I'm the problem. It's me. I guess the first, gross.